Hello and welcome to the Somerset Diverse Communities podcast. My name is Michał Purzyński and I am a BAME Community Engagement Officer from Community Council for Somerset. This show is about Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities in Somerset.
Today we are in beautiful natural setting. There are hills and wood all around, singing birds, and the smell of fresh air makes us feel better. But about where we are and what are the benefits of being in the bosom of nature, I will talk to my guest, Jon Barrett, the Quantock Landscape Partnership Scheme Community Engagement and Volunteering Officer. Oh, wow, that's a long one. Morning, Jon. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a long job title. It's a bit hard to say, but probably easy to summarise. Would you like me to tell you what it means?
Yes, please.
Sure thing. So Community Engagement and Volunteering Officer basically means I get to work with lots of our communities that live on and around the Quantock Hills, but also get people engaged with volunteering opportunities. Pretty self-explanatory. But it means that you'll find me outdoors often, working with people, be that contributing to the upkeep of the hills, or getting people outdoors experiencing health and well-being benefits of being in nature. Perhaps I could tell you a little bit about the Quantock Landscape Partnership Scheme. Again, another long title. The Landscape Partnership Scheme, QLPS, we are part of the Quantock Hills, and the Quantock Hills is an area of outstanding natural beauty in Somerset, based between, it's a geographical region between sort of roughly Taunton and Bridgewater, a hill range that goes everywhere from the county town to the coast. So it's the sort of first hill range you see really if perhaps you're coming down from the M5, looking across the hill range. People often mistake it for Exmoor, but it's its own hill range, as in fact actually the first area of outstanding natural beauty in England. So it's a protected landscape. It's an area made up of different land ownership, and the Quantock Hills help to facilitate the management of the hills. Our scheme is a 5-year project. We're funded in the main by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and across the 5 years we have a pot of funding from the Heritage Fund, which allows us to do loads of different projects that get people engaged with nature, and preserve and look at the heritage, both natural heritage and historic heritage of the hills. So our scheme, our boundary, if you like, is a little bit larger than the Quantock Hills boundary. So we're doing things on the hills, but we're also working with communities off of the hills. So if you like, a ring of parishes around the hills. That's where we can do our some of our capital work. So some of the whether it's maintenance work or whether it's different ways that we sort of spend our money, happens within that boundary. The communities that we work with come from within that boundary, but also it's a slightly fuzzier boundary, and we work with lots of communities based in, say, Bridgewater and West Somerset, North Taunton, that might sit just outside that boundary, but experience and can experience the benefits that are happening within our project boundary.
The area that your project covers is huge, but today you invited me to a special place. Can you tell us where we are and why we start our conversation here?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're kind of nestled almost in the centre of the hills. We're in a lovely place called Great Wood. It's a place that many people might know. It's got one of few cafes that are based on the Quantock Hills. but it's also it's a Forestry England site. It's got a lovely large picnic area. You've got the hills all around you. You've got water, streams, lots of natural things to enjoy around the area, and I'm sure plenty of people will have come here and use this site to experience days out or places to go for a walk. The picnic areas are fantastic, but also it's somewhere that it's got a great kind of community of mountain bikers that use this area as well. So if you like our kind of evergreen audience of people who use the hills, people who are kind of experienced with coming to the hills, you will probably know and recognise somewhere like Great Wood as being somewhere that you'll come and associate with the Quantock Hills. That said, in order to get here, as we have today, we've had to drive here. It's not a completely inaccessible area. There are roads getting you here, but nevertheless you have to drive here, and driving costs money. So in a way, those people who are often experiencing these places are privileged enough to be able to get here, which is fantastic. It's great to see people using these hills. However, I'd like to make sure that everybody that can access these areas are made up of those people who live locally as well, who perhaps don't drive, or there are plenty of different barriers that mean that people can't access green spaces like these. Could be confidence, could be lack of ability, could be, like I say, money related, it could be transport. So there's loads of barriers to accessing the hills. So that's one of the things our scheme tries to address, is actually how can we support people, how can we get people up and out here doing the things that we know are, for a lot of people, part of their regular experience of the hills.
What does better access and meaningful inclusion look like?
So in the future, it would be lovely to imagine a time when all of the groups that we're taking to the hills, all of these experiences we're having with different people on the hills, that we're not the first generation here doing that, that all of the different communities, multicultural groups are having some of their best experiences here that they can pass on to future generations, to their children, and for them to have those experiences in the same way on these hills, to build new traditions and new experiences. It's a way of making the gateway, the agricultural gate, the fence, as open as it is as the entrance to the local cafe and the local high street. It's making sure that people can access these areas and feel welcome, to know that their face isn't alone here, that people of colour can come here, that everybody is welcome, that everybody has a place on these hills. These are about collective stories and not about individual. We have a range of different ways that people can engage with the hills. So we try to create experiences, activities and events that enable everyone to participate and get involved. For example, I run a series of photo walks each month. Now, taking photographs has become kind of commonplace for everyone really. From our mobile phones, it used to be that we have to have had a camera or some expensive equipment, and that's not the case anymore. We're all walking around mostly with phones in our pockets, taking pictures, taking selfies. It's become part of our collective culture. Kind of, it's one great kind of universal thing that we all do. So events like our photo walks enable people to come out and experience the hills with that tool that we've all got in our pocket. And that tool is a way of making sure that you can affirm your your place in your surroundings. You can take a picture, you can capture that moment, that experience, that environment socially with friends, and it's a non-judgmental tool. Everybody's got the tool in their pocket. It knows no boundaries, it knows no race, no colour. It is a great connector, as often arts and creative things are. They're a great way to kind of connect with our experiences and our surroundings and to understand them. So we create these events and try to connect with all of our communities around the hills, diverse communities who perhaps are experiencing the hills for the first time, whether that's migrant communities, whether it's Ukrainian families. We will have a great cohort of African, West African and Nigerian mental health nurses that live in and around the hills. And the photo walks present a fantastic opportunity to experience somewhere for the first time.
Engagement in nature has been shown to have a range of health and well-being benefits. What are the Quantock Landscape Partnership Scheme doing to support this?
We've got 23 different projects as part of our scheme. Now some of those will have more sort of practical tasks related to them, but lots of those will have present loads of opportunities for getting involved and getting engaged with the hills. And as you mentioned, you know, we know the health and well-being benefits of being outdoors. So what we try to do is make sure that all of our projects that are open and accessible to people to get involved, can get involved, can experience the well-being benefits. So that might be something, in some instances, quite simple, like providing transport and allowing people to come up to the hills. So yeah, the other thing is making sure that we have opportunities that are attractive, that are, you know, one of the best things about coming to the hills is the sense of freedom. You know, once you get here, you're away from whatever's going on in more sort of town, district, urban environments. Certainly, like here today, we've got the birds singing, we've got the wind, we've got the trees, we've got the no frame of reference, no context to say that we're near busier environments. It feels very quiet, which is lovely.
What can you do here? What kind of experience can you gain while staying in this area?
Yeah, sure. So we do loads of really fantastic things on the hills. We know that obviously there are plenty of footpaths and ways to experience the hills, lovely long walks, being out in nature. Our scheme, we've got 23 different projects. Now, not all of those are projects that happen outdoors and on the hills, but the majority of them are, and they'll have loads of different opportunities for people. We try to make sure that we can create opportunities for people to experience the hills. And that's everything from, we've got myself, who's a community engagement officer, we've got Jem, who's our wildlife officer, and Dan, who's our historic heritage officer. So in a way, we've got projects that range from wildlife conservation, surveying, looking for different animals, could be anything from woodland management later on in the year, doing fun practical tasks, could be cutting down trees to create bigger and better habitats for things like our resident dormice, could be anything on the historic heritage front, from excavations, digs, archaeology. All of these are great ways for people to kind of connect with the hills. So in terms of the historic heritage, you're looking at what's under the ground, you're looking at, you know, getting this intimate experience with the hills. With the wildlife conservation elements, you know, you're looking at maybe what's on top of the ground, you're looking at that coverage of the hills. And, you know, with my work, I'm connecting with people and looking at the ways that people can connect with all of those different aspects. We do.
But I do apologize, but I think it's worth to mention that you can visit the Quantocks, not necessarily by contacting you as well.
Not that's our scheme. But of course, the hills are free to come to.
Right. Let's talk about the diversity of fauna and flora. What can you come across here?
Fantastic question. In terms of natural habitats, I mean, it's a phenomenal place, full of so many surprises. Every time you come to the hills, you'll experience, even if you go to the same location, different things happening in nature each time. And we have a huge population of deer as well, and often people can see red deer roaming on the hills, or roe deer, the ones with the sort of slightly white rump to them. And you've got birds pretty much everywhere you go. In the evening, at night time, you've got bats, badgers, you've got all sorts of animals and creatures that kind of love to. They're the real residents of these hills. We're the tourists to the hills.
Right. I'm surprised that you haven't mentioned about the big cat.
The big cat. Well, we do have there's plenty of folklore around the hills, and we have the black dog of the Quantocks, which is an interesting story. All the folklore stories are interesting. The black dog of the Quantocks is quite unique, though. So it's meant to have guided lost children back home when they wandered too far off into the hills.
It's a good dog.
It's a good dog. It's a good dog, not a bad dog. Often in other parts of the country, the black dog represents something quite malevolent, but the black dog of the Quantocks is a good dog.
So if people would like to find out more about your project or about the Quantock Hills in general, where would you direct them? Is there any particular website or any information center? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so we have a website. Our project has a website, QLPS.org. We tend to post a lot of our events and opportunities on there. Social media is a great way of connecting with people. Facebook, Quantock LPS. Instagram as well is another great way of seeing our projects on our different work. So again, Quantock LPS. But the QuantockHills.com as well. The AOMB's website is a great place to find out about everything to do with the hills, how you can access the hills and where you can access the hills. We welcome anyone to get in contact with us. All of the work that we do is, if you like, it's done iteratively, so we work in collaboration with loads of different partners and loads of different groups, be that from other organisations to smaller community groups or individuals, and we will listen to what people would like to do.
So what would you say to the people from diverse communities? How would you encourage them to take the advantage of the Quantock Hills?
Don't be afraid to get in touch. Don't be afraid to reach out and talk to us. We have, a short amount of time here with our project to create the foundations for longer term legacy and connections with the hills. We've got a bit of money to help us do that, which is fantastic. So, if there are barriers for individuals or groups accessing the hills, perhaps you want these opportunities but don't know how to do it, then get in touch, because it might be, often we're providing transport for things that are even a short walk. We're able to provide transport and get people engaged here, and hopefully that creates longer term connections, that people are meeting other people who are regular users and engagers with the hills, and we're able to build and create relationships that mean that people have a lasting connection and way of engaging with the hills. So do kind of get in touch is what I would say. Often we have, loads of indirect ways of connecting with our communities. We've mentioned things like Facebook, and Facebook groups are often good, but we have WhatsApp channels, we have different kind of social ways of sort of chatting to people. It doesn't have to be on email or phone calls, so things can sometimes be quite terrifying and present loads of different challenges in themselves, particularly language barriers. And so I think that finding a way that is comfortable for people to talk and connect with us is what we would like to explore, and make sure that we're able to chat to people in a way that people want to talk.
It was Jon Barrett from the Quantock Landscape Partnership Scheme. Thank you, Jon, for your time.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.